Originally, I was just going to leave the floor as it is and build straight over the top of it. I've decided, after everything else that's been happening, that I really just want to make sure, for my own peace of mind, that the floor underneath is okay before I start building. I'll just see if I can give you a close-up of this. You can see that the vinyl's got sort of lots of little cracks and crazes in it. I mean, it's pretty old. You have to sort of think what it's going to be like in 5-10 years time, and I don't think it's going to last that long. The other issue is, because I've had so many problems with rust and water getting into the bus, I just want to make sure that there's nothing sinister going on in the floor. I mean, the floor feels pretty solid when you're walking around in here, but my gut's telling me that I just need to make sure, because the last thing I want to do is spend thousands of dollars building the inside of the bus, and then putting a whole bunch of stuff in here, some of which is quite heavy, only to discover in a few years' time that sections of the floor are rotting, because that would be a major problem to try and fix at that stage. So I've decided I am going to rip up this vinyl, and we'll see what is underneath. So initially I started trying to just use this chisel to lift up the vinyl. So, you know, it's just sticking under like that, bang with the hammer. But what I found was it's very hard to stop the chisel going too deep and lifting up part of the timber as well. So you can see here that this bit that I was doing with the chisel is very choppy. A lot of the timber's been sort of chipped away. So I actually tried using this, which is just an ordinary paint scraper. So obviously it's not as strong as a chisel, so it doesn't have much strength to actually lever the vinyl up. But it's really good because it's a lot thinner and flatter. It's a lot easier to get it just under the superficial layer of the vinyl. So you can get it under the vinyl, and then I can use the chisel to lift it up. And I just find that doing that doesn't chew up as much of the wood, and actually makes it a lot easier to get the vinyl off. Well, I'm starting to think that that first test bit I pulled up the other day was the easiest bit in the bus, because it's actually really hard work getting the rest of this vinyl up. I've been going for, I think, about an hour and a half, I'm not really sure, and this is about as much as I've got done so far. So this much down, all of this to go. If there's one thing that converting a bus teaches you, it's patience, because all the jobs take a lot longer than you think they're going to. But anyway, I am making progress, even if it is slow, so onwards and upwards. So day 2 of tackling the floor today. So I've got my scrapers and my hammer again today, but someone in one of the Facebook groups mentioned that they used a shovel to try and scrape the vinyl up as well, and that made it a little bit easier. So I'm going to give this a crack today and see if it makes a difference. So wish me luck. have to say that using the shovel made a big difference. I mean, there were still a few places where the glue was really well and truly stuck down, and I had to really use the scraper and the chisel to get under it. But it was, you know, overall a lot quicker. Like I've basically done, you can see now, about halfway up the bus on each side. And this passenger side that I did the other day took me about four and a half hours to do this section. So far today I've spent maybe an hour and a half to do the same amount, and it's a lot easier on the muscles. So I would definitely recommend, if you're ever in the situation where you're going to rip up the vinyl on your bus floor, definitely give the shovel a go, because it's really making the job a lot easier. So it took me 3 solid days of work to get this vinyl up off the floor, but I finally managed to do it, and this is what it looks like now. I've still got the vinyl on the front steps here, and to be honest, I'm in two minds as to whether I'm actually going to rip that up or not. I am going to be building out over this step, like the floor's actually going to come out to the same height as what you can see here. So I'm actually going to be eliminating this intermediate step here, and it's mostly just going to be storage underneath. So I'm kind of tempted to leave that vinyl here just because it was such a pain to get the rest of it up. And this end of the bus is pretty good as far as I can tell in terms of the quality of the floor. I know some of you are thinking, why would you even bother ripping the vinyl up when it seemed pretty good? And just seemed like a ridiculous amount of work for no good reason, but I'll show you why I wanted to do it. So most of the floor is actually in pretty good nick, but up the back here, and I'm not sure if we'll have enough light. Okay, so you can see here in this back corner of the bus, there's obviously been water damage from leaks that we're getting in this back corner. And I mean, this is thick ply, and you can see just how papery thin it is. It's just completely disintegrating. And there's actually, you know, a hole there straight down to the engine bay underneath. So, you know, I would never have discovered that if I hadn't ripped up the vinyl floor. And there's actually a few other little sections in this area that are not fabulous either. So I'm actually going to have to replace this section of ply here, and obviously that floor heater is now going to have to come out. So as much as I hate the fact that that's now an extra job that I have to do, I'm actually really pleased that I did decide to rip up the vinyl and that I've found it now, because, you know, I want to put some workbenches and things in my studio up here, and obviously I can't be screwing things to the floor when it's in that condition. So I'm fortunate that I've discovered it now and I can fix it properly before I start the build.